Oh, hi, class. I've got a couple announcements to go over today, and then I want to spend a little bit of time still trying to clear up for some of you the difference between an informative and a persuasive speech. I've had a chance to look at some of the outlines that you guys have turned in already. For the most part, they look really good. Those are the outlines for the informative speech, but I want to make a couple comments on the source citations and on the spacing in the outline. And then I've got a couple delivery tips for you as you get ready to deliver your informative speech next week. But first, couple announcements. One, drop deadline is right around the corner at the end of the month. And so I'm going to go through and clean my roster of any students that are no longer participating in the class. So if you haven't turned in your critic speech, never submitted your critic speech, and if I have yet to receive your topic proposal for the informative speech, and I don't hear from you in the next week, I will be dropping you from the class. So if you're behind on your work and I haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks, but you still intend on staying in the class, and that's doable. I mean, it's one of the advantages of doing the class online. You have some time where you can make up some work. Just send me an email and let me know. Hey, Poff, don't drop me. Some stuff came up, but I'm still staying in the class. Cool. But if you haven't submitted the critic speech, if you haven't submitted the topic proposal for the informative speech, and if I don't receive an an email from you by the end of the week, I'll be dropping you from the class. And then the second announcement is your outlines were due yesterday. I would say about 75% have turned your outlines in, but if you haven't, let's get those outlines in. And I'm going to start grading those as soon as I'm done with this Zoom recording. So you should be receiving your graded outlines back this afternoon, tomorrow, Friday at the latest. All right, so just a couple more comments on kind of clearing up the confusion on telling the difference between an informative and a persuasive speech. And some of you, boy, I really appreciate your patience and your willingness to kind of grind it out. You might have submitted maybe 3-4 topics before we got one that really worked well for the informative speech. So just remember, and it's one of the more difficult concepts for students to learn, is that understanding of how is an informative topic different from a persuasive topic? How do we tell the difference between the two? And it's even more problematic because a lot of that depends on your intent or your purpose for focusing on the speech. For some, it could be more persuasive. For some, it could be more informative. So there's a lot of parameters to try to figure out. And that's why I have you submit your topic proposals to me for the informative speech, because really, I just want to make sure that you have a topic that will give you every chance for being successful on the informative speech assignment. So that's really to protect you, to make sure that you don't end up spending a lot of time on a speech that doesn't even meet the requirements of the assignment. So when it comes to informative speeches, when you're thinking about topics, always begin by thinking about a noun and the parameters established by that noun, in the sense that I could do a speech on a person, I could do it on a place, or I could do a speech on a thing. And I know that's kind of wide and broad, but a lot of times when we're focusing on things for an informative speech, we're thinking about really cool technology or inventions. Like, some of you are going to do your informative speech on the latest iPhone. I think the iPhone 12, cool. That works as an informative topic. And any topics that deal with anything that's been created or invented usually follows that chronological time frame format where you focus on the past, here's the history and background, how it was created, discovered, whatever, and then focus on present uses and then future implications. So that chronological format works really well for informative speeches on things. But you can kind of flip that around and focus on what I call the everyday household things. And some of you, I even mentioned, if you want to find a good informative topic, just walk around the house with a pad and a pen and start writing stuff down. Peanut butter, coffee, tea, chili peppers, vinegar, right? All kinds of things in your home could end up being really cool topics for an informative speech that both amuse and amaze the audience. So with informative topics, you want to focus on a noun, person, place, or thing, and you want to make sure that whatever that topic is, that it doesn't focus on a problem to be solved, right? That's why climate change wouldn't work as a good informative topic, because a lot of the information that you would give wouldn't be, oh, how wonderful our climate is. No, it's on how jacked up our climate is and all of the negative effects and consequences that result as a result of climate change. And in that speech, you probably would also give us things we could do to fix the climate. So anytime you're giving information to us and your intent is that you're going to use that information to achieve a desired outcome, right? That's the classic definition of persuasion, right? So diet and fitness wouldn't work as informative topics, because the reason for giving us that information, let's say you want to do a speech on improving our diet. So you'd probably go, look, if you eat a bunch of crap, your body's going to react. You're going to have a lot of negative consequences, a lot of physical ailments. But if you change your diet and start eating these nutritious foods, you're going to have much better health outcomes. So essentially, if I'm an audience member and I listen to your speech and I follow through on what you're advocating that I do, you're changing my behavior, right? Let's say you give a speech on identity theft, and as a result of that speech, I no longer carry documents with my social security number on my person, right? My behavior has been affected. So that's what we're after with persuasive speaking. That's why any topic that focuses on a problem to be solved works much better as a persuasive speech, because the outline format will focus on the three components of a good persuasive speech: effects or consequences of the problem, effects of the problem, and solutions to the problem. And if when you submit your topic proposal and I respond back, this topic doesn't work, it focuses on a problem to be solved, I expect you then to respond by trying to come up with a good informative topic. Just don't ignore me, and then the next thing I hear from you, you turn in your outline, which is on a persuasive topic for an informative speech, right? Look, I'm not giving you suggestions for my health. I'm trying to teach you the right way to do something. So if I tell you that 2 + 2 is 4, don't just go, oh, I'm going to go ahead on the assignment as if 2 + 2 equals 0, because then you're not going to be successful on that assignment. So when I give you suggestions, I expect you to follow those suggestions, to listen to me, to make the change so that you learn how to do the speech correctly. All right? I'm not doing this for my health. I'm doing it to help you and to make you better, more productive citizens so you can go out into the world and really make a difference. So make sure that you're always following all of the specific guidelines for all of the assignments. All right, source citations. So again, I've had a chance to peek at some of the outlines, and again, they look pretty good overall as far as the structure in the organization, but some of you need to do a better job getting your source citations into the actual text of the outline. Look, don't just put a hyperlink to your source at the end of a main point. That doesn't do me any good as an audience member, right? So when you're delivering the speech, you don't go, oh, here's my hyperlink, and you're going to click it, and all that information magically appears. The only way we know what your source is when you're delivering a speech is if you tell us in the speech. So you've got to work your source citations into the flow. You should have one source citation for content in the significant step in the introduction, and you should have at least one source citation worked into the flow of main point 1, main point 2, main point 3. And so when you're citing a source 2, only tell us 3 components. Title of the publication, not the title of the article. It's longer, it's harder to remember. Title of the publication would be the name of the book, the name of the magazine, the name of the newspaper article, the name of the website, and then give us the author and the date. We don't need all the other information that you would typically put in a bibliography, because you're not going to read a bibliography at the end of the speech. So you've got to cite your sources. I'm getting a little excited. Cite your sources into the flow of the speech, just like I show you in each of the sample outlines. You want to make sure that your outline is done correctly, then just make sure when you're finished with your outline, before you submit it, compare it to one of the sample outlines and make sure everything looks the same. So your source, do you see hyperlinks in the sample outline? No. So don't put them into your outline. They don't do us any good when we're giving an actual presentation. And I get it, right? You're in your room doing a speech into your laptop, but we're trying to create at least the illusion that we're giving a speech to an audience as if we were in the classroom. So make sure your source citations are done correctly. All right. And then the second thing about the outlines I would like to mention, some of you need to do a little better job on the overall spacing. You want to make sure that it's easy to look down at your outline and find the next line. Some of you, like in a main point, you just have one big paragraph. So, and what I'm going to teach you in a second when we get to delivery, a good way to practice your speech is to practice your speech by reading your outline out loud. That's also a good way to overlearn the information so you're less dependent on the outline. But when you're practicing your outline out loud, it's hard to get into a really good flow if you're glancing down and it's hard to find that next line. And that's what happens, right? You've got a big paragraph, you forget the next line. And so for my next point, now I glance down, it's going to be an awkward pause. It's going to take me longer to find that info. So I want to easily be able to glance down, see the next line, pop my head up, and say the next line. So follow this rule when you're putting your outlines together. One sentence per subpoint. So for your A, B, 1, 2, little a, your bullet point, whatever you're using to format your outline, follow the rule, one sentence per subpoint. Make sure everything's spaced out so it's easy to look down, find my next line, look up, and keep the speech going. And then, good way to practice your speech. So in the next couple days, you'll be getting your outline back. It'll be graded. If I make any suggestions, stuff you need to fix, get those changes made. Maybe it's, oh, you need a better transition after your second main point. Cool. Get that change made. So make any suggested changes. So now my outline is set. It's done. I don't have to do anything else with my outline. Now what I want to do to get ready for my presentation, my delivery of the speech, I'm going to take that outline and I'm going to read my speech out loud from the outline 5 times a day, every day, until I record my speech and submit it. What that will help you do, one, will help you to learn the information. I'm a big proponent of repetition is the key to retention, right? The more I say something, the easier it will be for me to remember that information. And so I'm going to read my speech out loud 5 times a day, every day, until I record my speech. And you'll find if you have 5 or 6 days in between, by the time you get to that 5th, 6th day, you're hardly going to need your outline to deliver the speech. You will have overlearned the information without even trying, because repetition is the key to retention. Now, I'm also going to practice the way I'm going to deliver the speech. So when I'm saying my speech out loud and I'm using the outline, each time I want to focus on a different delivery technique. So maybe one time I'm reading through the speech out loud, I'm going to work on the vocal aspect. I'm going to work on how I'm going to say each line. So maybe I'm really going to work on incorporating more vocal variety into the presentation. Maybe I'm going to add pauses in key spots, have a little longer pause, and then soften my tone, slow my rate down when I get to a really important line. So each time I practice my speech out loud from the outline, I'll work on a different delivery component. Maybe one time I'll read it out loud and I'll just focus on my movement and gestures. Another time I'll practice saying my speech and I'm really going to work on delivering each line right into that camera lens, right? That's my audience. That's where I should be looking. And it's a little harder to do when you're just speaking into a laptop, but I want to create the illusion of creating eye contact with my audience. So when you're practicing your speech, you're getting ready for that delivery 5 times a day, read it from the outline, work on a different delivery aspect. And I am so looking forward to your presentations next week. a lot of you have really cool, informative topics. That's one of the coolest thing about my job. I listen to a round of informative speeches. I'm the one who's always learning. So give me your best effort on the delivery. Show me you put in the work, right? There's no secret to success. You put in the work, you put in the preparation, you put in the practice, you're going to crush the delivery of the informative speech. I can't wait to see that. All right, we're done. See you next week.